this is Anna from Savvy Cat Realty. Now I'm going to start with saying Happy New Year because we did release a video in the first week, but it was actually a reused one because I got myself a throat infection, a tonsillitis, and therefore I wasn't able to make a new recording. But we are now officially going to start this content year with our traditional first video of the year, which is 2025 market tendencies in Portugal. So, for those of you who don't know, Savvy Cat Realty is a relocation and investment agency that helps expats move to Portugal. We work with an all-in-one lifestyle service, and our goal is to help expats find the best location and the best property for them. One of the big concerns when I started this company was exactly the ethic and the conflict of interests and making sure that buyers, especially international buyers, know exactly what they are getting into and make a good purchase from an internal market perspective, avoiding inflating further the prices, which is definitely very much a theme that has happened in the past years. So we work with both rentals and purchases, and you can check all of our services that are listed very transparently in our website in www.savvycatrealty.com. So going into today's topic, the state of the Portuguese real estate market in 2025 and possible trends. There is a lot of talk about a potential crash because of the housing crisis. That is definitely very significant in Portugal. So the current situation in Portugal is that there has been a 55% increase in housing prices in the past 10 years, while the average income for the Portuguese person only rose by about 6%. And therefore, you can imagine that the state of the real estate market is rather terrible. And in Europe, it's one of the worst countries when it comes to these two metrics. This is definitely not a positive scenario. And to be fair, this is one of the reasons that I created the company. I believe that a lot of the foreigners that end up inflating the prices do so without being aware of what they are doing, because they are not aware of the market prices and end up comparing to their home markets and thinking it's a good deal when they end up very often overpaying. The other issue is the way that the market works here in Portugal. And it is not considered legally in Portugal a conflict of interest to represent both the buyer and the seller. And at the same time, the standard practice here in Portugal is that the agent that represents the seller usually has the commission, and it's usually incentivized that the same agent also finds the buyer. At the same time, it is also very uncommon. It's changing a bit, but it's still fairly uncommon for agencies to have exclusivity on their representations of the sellers, which means that you have a bunch of different agencies selling the same property, sometimes at different prices, with terrible communication between them, and it kind of becomes a race to see whoever sells faster, and no one gets paid unless they are the ones who sell. So this, of course, does not at all incentivize transparency and good research, good due diligence. We come across very, very often properties with legal issues, with areas, with ownerships, with registries. This is honestly extremely common in Portugal, but that's a whole other issue. I'm here to talk about the housing crisis today, and I believe that this system is one of the main factors to why this got so bad. And truth is, this is not a singular problem to Portugal. In Spain, in France, in Italy, as far as I know, the system is very similar, but it's still a very, very dysfunctional system. And although you do not at all, from a legal and technical perspective, actually need a buyer's agent, I definitely highly recommend to get one, especially if you are a foreign buyer that does not know the market all that well. Because, as I said, due to all of this ingrained lack of transparency in the system, it's very, very easy to inflate prices unfairly and to get people to purchase and increase prices. This, of course, benefits the sellers and the agents, but it does not benefit anyone else, including, of course, the buyer that ends up buying something above the price that it's decent for the market. So I believe this is the root of the problem of our housing crisis. However, this is probably not going to change anytime soon. And I also do not believe there is going to be a market crash. There is a lot of talk about the market crash, about the state of the Portuguese real estate market versus internal economy. But the truth is, markets function based on supply and demand. And there is enough demand. Truth is, yes, a lot of it is foreigner. It actually drastically reduced in 2024 due to the changes on the measures, removing the NHR and removing the golden visa and so on. It created a big break of interest in the real estate market from an international perspective. But there is still a lot of interest. And it is still an interesting market from an international perspective. And therefore, the prices did calm down a bit on 2024. But I do predict that that won't be long lasting, especially with the current US situation. There is a predicted big wave of immigration coming from the US due to the political situation. And that is likely going to keep the prices up above, along with everything else that already makes the market interesting. So I do not believe there is going to be a housing crisis. One of the things that generally tends to create a housing crisis is the banking structure and ton of properties that are on loan floating the market when they become repossessed. This is extremely unlikely in Portugal. I mean, I've been hearing about a possible market crash ever since I started this business, to be honest. It never happened. I'm in business about 4 years already, so I don't think it's going to happen now out of all times. I think it would be more likely during 2024 than now in 2025. The banking structure is quite solid, so you have a lot of safekeeping measures when it comes to the loans. And although you do have a lot of loans in Portugal with variable rates, people in Portugal are we call it desenrascados. So we find a way. So if the installment goes from 300 to 600, people do find generally a way. And if they don't, they will probably sell the property. And the biggest increase and spike in the banking spread rate was during the late 2023 and 2024. And there definitely were not a problem of repossessions flooding the market. Any repossessions that came in disappeared in the blink of an eye. So you really don't have that risk here. I think it's more likely to risk having a revolution, and I still think that is extremely unlikely because Portuguese people are very passive. So I honestly don't think much is going to change. The market is stable and likely to increase during 2025 and the years to come. Is that good for the Portuguese people? Not really, to be honest. And therefore, I do highly recommend to work with people like me that want to have the information, all the information to the buyer and make sure they make a purchase that is not inflated or making a negative impact on the Portuguese real estate market by unreasonably inflating the prices. We, of course, have no way of controlling this. We cannot control all the people that buy inflated houses. We cannot stop them from buying. We cannot stop the market from inflating. But I do like to feel like I am contributing positively by helping whoever I can. And that's whoever becomes my clients and my company's clients, of course. So to give you a brief overview of how we work and how we try to avoid inflating the market in this sense, we have an MLS system that allows us to consult everything that is going on with the property and the market in general. So it's a data gathering database. It is not as open as the ones in the US, for example. It's still very limited. It's only accessible to agencies, which is one of the reasons the problem continues, but it is what it is. We are able to see, how many agencies are listing the same property, whether that property has been going up and down in prices, if the prices listing are being different, if that property has been in the market before, on how many times it's been resold. So we have access to most of that information there. That's actually another problem in Portugal, because those kinds of things are actually not at all public record. And in this kind of platforms, we have access to the listing information, so the price it was put for sale. But the actual purchase price is not at all mandatory to disclose. It's considered private information. You cannot access it on public record. So unless the agency discloses it to the platform, there is no way of actually knowing actual selling prices. But I do believe that at the moment there is still some room for negotiation in some properties and areas. But like I said, with the amount of demand increasing on the market, that wiggle room is likely going to decrease. So the negotiation margin in Portugal at the moment isn't not that bad. It's not that great. It's not that bad. I would say you are generally able to decrease the price between 5 and 15%, depending on, of course, the state of the property and everything else. This is a very, very relative situation because it depends on the reason for the sellers to be selling, whether or not they are in the hurry to sell, whether or not they need the money fast, and whether or not they were listing it at an inflated price in the first place. What we do also, besides doing all of this checkup on these platforms, we also include in our service an actual lawyer verifying all the documentation and making sure things match up when it comes to documents and areas and so on. And then we also send an engineering and do a physical inspection and report on the property to, as much as possible, avoid any physical surprises with the property, and also negotiate based on any findings we do during these investigations. So this is the way we operate. We also help our clients find the best location to them according to their lifestyle. I think it's perfectly normal for anyone that is coming from a different country to not know our country well. I mean, you're not supposed to. So you come here and you tell us, what is the lifestyle that you want to have? Do you want to have a peaceful countryside villa life? Do you want to have a suburbs where it's still peaceful but you are within reach of the town? Do you prefer mountains? Do you prefer sea view? Do you prefer more of plains? Do you prefer hotter weather, colder weather? Do you need schools, hospitals and other amenities nearby? What is your budget? So we take all of these factors into consideration to suggest locations that we think would be suitable for your own particular needs. and then we come from there. Then we take you to those places and make sure that you how you feel about them, because in the end you're the one who's going to live there, right? And then we start investigating and looking into the market. When clients have very specific needs, we work with all of the markets. So we are able to work with agency listings, private listings, and we even look for off-market deals. And when clients need specific deals, we will go on land and on a site to actually investigate the area and ask around and see if we find anything specifically for the client. So we are basically concierges to help you find the perfect place for you here in Portugal. And if this makes sense for you, do feel free to contact us directly at contact.savvycatrealty.com. You can book a free clarification call with one of my agents on our website in www.savvycatrealty.com. And you can also book a call to discuss more technical and personalized advice directly with me on the same page in our advisory service page. So I hope that this was useful and that I gave you some clarification on what are the likely evolution trends of the Portuguese market. I also hope that I explained the value of what we are doing and that hopefully you agree that it does bring value to you. And if so, I hope to see you on this end soon. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful 2025. And maybe I'll see you around here. You can always subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. We also release articles in our website with a lot of useful information and have weekly newsletters that you can subscribe to on our website. So I hope to see you around and see you next week.